Welcome everyone, it's Egwin. This week we talk about spinal movement, to be more specific about spinal rotation. It's a very small exercise that you can integrate or fit in wherever you want throughout your day. So it is especially designed not to need any devices, not to need any special clothing. So it's literally one of those small, tiny little tools that you can use to improve your physical health whenever it comes to mind. Also, rotation in the spine always means that we also mobilize the whole chest area, the whole intercostal area, all the ribs and everything that has to do with our breathing as well. So this small exercise will literally give you a very nice workout for your whole thoracic spine and help you to balance out excessive tension or whatever that you build up throughout your normal day life, or while performing a specific work, or sitting in a special position for a long time, and so on. If you need to jump to any specific part of the video, in the description below you'll find a list with all the time codes, and so I'll say let's get started right away. The movement we're talking about now looks like that. I'm standing in the upright position. Make sure that the inside edges of your feet are parallel to each other and the feet are roughly hip-wide apart. From this position, what I'm showing you the movement first. What we do is simply a twist to one side and a twist to the other side. Now obviously there is a little bit more to it than just turn to the left and turn to the right. And what more? That's what I'll talk to you about right now. For starters, not all parts of my spine are designed to rotate. Normally, one thinks, oh yeah, the spine, we can move it in all different sorts of directions. But that's not entirely true. See, the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, and the cervical spine, they are actually quite dissimilar. So there is a lot of difference between them when it comes to the position of the joints that interlink one vertebra with the next above or below. And those joint shapes, they actually define which movements are possible in what part of my spine. So my lumbar spine, and this is very important for sports, for work, for all things related with spinal movement, the lumbar spine cannot rotate as much as your thoracical or even your cervical spine. So basically, the lumbar spine, the joints interlinking the vertebrae in the lumbar spine with each other, they stand in such a position. So this would be, say, lumbar spine, this would be the joint on the left side, this would be the joint on the right side. So literally, the joints are almost, not quite, but are almost parallel to each other. It's about like that. So if there is my front, here is my back, then the joints in the lumbar spine are positioned like so. Which means that trying to turn, to rotate in the lumbar spine is almost like trying to make a square tire move. Obviously, a square tire doesn't really move. It needs a lot of work to make it move, and we don't call that tire, we call that square. The tire is round, and that's for a reason. Now, in the lumbar spine, the position of the joints is in such a way that it supports tilting the pelvis to the front and to the rear, like so. And it also supports tilting the pelvis to the left and to the right, like so. But it doesn't support rotation. This rotation is done in my hip joints. This rotation is done in my thoracic spine. My lumbar spine can only move like 2 or 3 degrees, so it's not a lot. In the thoracic spine, the position of the joints is quite different. In the thoracic spine, the position of the joints is open like that. So that's the front, that's the rear. The position between the joints, the position of the left and right joints interlinking the vertebrae with each other in the thoracic spine is like so. So turned out to the side. Out front here would be my intervertebral disc. Down here would be my processus spinosus. And also they're sort of angled to the front, almost like the tiles of a roof. So there, obviously, it is possible to rotate one segment towards the other. But still, there are limitations. So obviously, in the thoracic spine too, a rotational movement only happens because of the summation of all the different joints working together. Per joint, again, it's only a couple of degrees that I can literally turn. A lot more than in the lumbar spine already, but in my thoracic spine, making big turns like that is possible as there are 12 vertebrae interlinked with this type of joint. My cervical spine obviously has the best ability to turn, and that's because the joints interlinking one vertebra to the other in my cervical spine are positioned like so. So it's literally, they don't face each other, so the left and the right joint don't face each other, they actually face down or up. So, meaning that one vertebra sitting on top of the other has a lot of ability of rotation in the higher part of my cervical spine. The further down I go in my cervical spine, the more those joints sort of turn up and join the shape of my joints of the thoracical spine. But still, the rotational ability of my cervical spine is the best. My thoracic spine too can rotate, and the lumbar spine, let's say it can't rotate. It can rotate, but very, very, very tiny movement. So, talking about rotation, there are a couple of muscles I can use. Mainly, if I want to turn my upper body, I can use my external and my internal obliques. My external obliques, they come from around here, so from my lower rib area, and they come down towards the midline like so, the same direction, their fibers in the same direction than my fingers are pointing right now. And the internal obliques, they come from down here, from my pelvic ring, and they come up towards the midline from down below, exactly in the opposite direction. So when I look at it at one side, actually the external oblique and the internal oblique coming from down here, they sort of form a crisscross shape with their fibers. So one muscle, the external oblique, is on top, the internal oblique is lower. So obviously, those muscle fibers, they run diagonally from one body side towards the midline, and the other side, the internal oblique, from the hip bone towards the midline. So obviously if I contract them, I can pull one side of my ribcage towards the front and down. Now this is actually, because my spine is rather further back and my ribcage is bent to the front, this is how I use my abdominal muscles, my obliques, to actually turn my spine. Obviously, later on, when you want to turn higher up, you can also start to use your intercostal muscles, and to increase the movement, you can also use your shoulders, but make sure to use your shoulders last. Because if you use the big muscles of your shoulders first, then all the small muscles in between the ribs, they can't work anymore because they are not strong enough to overpower a movement that the big muscles have done already. So always start from closer to the bone, closer to the structure, and work your way out to the bigger muscle groups. Alright, now, what does this mean? Important part here is we want to rotate our thoracic spine, but we don't want to rotate our lumbar spine. There are two ways to go about this. One is, if you really have a good awareness of your body, you can just check where are my lowest ribs. So obviously, this is the bow of my rib in front, and there are two floating ribs back here. So you should be able to feel them just grabbing in here on the side. Roughly the height where your ribcage ends, that's roughly the height to which you want to rotate. Do not go any lower than that. So for starters, try to start by simply standing straight and pulling, say, your right ribcage towards the midline. So consciously focus on activating this part of your abdomen and rotate it. Now consciously focus on the left lower part of your abdomen and contract it. This will increase the rotation. Now you can focus on your intercostal ribs, on your intercostal muscles between your ribs, and you can turn even a little further. And if you still feel comfortable, then you can add using your shoulders to increase the twist. Once you're at the side, don't work to come back. Just let go of the tension you just built. And you'll naturally rotate back to the middle. I'll come to that in a second. Let's do it on the other side first. I want to turn to my right side, so activate the muscles between your left ribcage and your center line of the abdomen. Those muscles down here first. Good. Now activate the muscles from your midline towards the right pelvic area. Then activate your intercostal muscles. And then, last but not least, you can add, if you feel comfortable with it, you can add some more pressure using your shoulder muscles. And then again, let go and let yourself flow back to the midline. Whenever we do an exercise like that, it is really important that you work with your muscles in one direction and you don't work with your muscles to get back. If you work with your muscles to the side and then you work with your muscles to the other side and then you work with the muscles to the other side, without any conscious part where you just simply let the tension do its work, then tension will rise, will build up. That's not what we want. What we want is we want to free the spine. We want to make it more mobile. In order to do that, you build up tension to come to the side, and you release, and you'll naturally be pulled back to the front anyway. You turn, and you let go, and you naturally float back to the center. That's exactly what's one of the main basic principles whenever we want a joint to learn about freedom. You work in one direction. Moving the joint off its natural position always takes some work. Now, I lifted my arm here. If I simply want this arm to go back down, all I have to do is relax it. And I can do so in different speeds. I could also lift my arm and now use a lot of pressure to bring it back down. But why should I do that? I already did some work. I already used my muscles to move my arm to a certain position. Now there is energy stored in it. Actually, physical potential energy is stored in the arm because right now it's higher and gravity is working on this arm to pull it back down. Whenever I give my muscles the command to simply let go, then the arm will naturally drop back into a neutral position due to gravity doing its work. And it's quite similar with your spine, because your spine has ligaments attached to it, all around it, in front, in the rear, even inside of the spinal channel. So all those ligaments, they tense up whenever you turn the spine. Whenever you twist the spine, those ligaments get tense up. Whenever you release the muscles, the tension in the ligaments seeks its original natural position again. So it's like a rubber band. Yeah? Whenever you stretch a rubber band and you let go, it will naturally revert to its original shorter form. And that's basically the same thing that happens in the spine. One part of why it is quite interesting to learn to mobilize the spine via rotation is that, especially in the thoracic spine, due to the position of the intervertebral joints, it's actually that one vertebra, when turned in relation to the other, actually moves away from it a little bit, thus giving your intervertebral disc a little bit more space whenever you turn to the side. So actually, turning your body to the side, you actually gain a little bit of height. Letting it come back to the midline, you sort of shrink a little bit. But that's the neutral position. Whenever you turn your body to the side, you actually screw yourself out of your foundation. You actually gain a little bit of height. Not 5 centimeters, obviously. We're talking millimeters per vertebra. But still, it is movement that actually helps with the natural pulsation inside the intervertebral discs. And this natural pulsation is also necessary for them to keep flexible, to stay flexible. And that again is important so that they keep their ability to rehydrate. If the intervertebral discs, if they get hard or porous or something like that, then they lose their ability to rehydrate as they have, say, in a child or in a young adult. So using this simple method, you not only mobilize the spine, you also mobilize and do something for the health of your intervertebral discs. Apart from that, muscular tension inside of your thorax, thoracic region, muscular tension in here builds whenever you have emotional or mental troubles, because all those muscles are tightly linked with your heart and are tightly linked with your breathing. So actually having quite a hard thoracic region that's quite stiff and tense is something rather unhealthy, but it is also something that unfortunately in nowadays society is almost normal already. So standing here and moving, learning to move your thoracic spine. So this is obviously only the rotational aspect. There are other options as well. I'll get to that in different tutorials. All those aspects, they can be used to remobilize your spine, to remobilize your chest, thus also to free your breathing. There is one more thing that we do now, and this is, as I said, it's important not to rotate the lumbar spine. And for a beginner, it's sometimes difficult to locate where does my lumbar spine start. So either you do it in front of a mirror and you check out, okay, where does my ribcage end, and roughly that height, and you sort of make sure not to twist any lower than, say, the thumb, where you're holding your thumb, or you make a mark or something like that. The other option is standing upright like so, and instead of using your abdominal muscles to start turning from your shoulders down. I'm still not talking about using the big shoulder muscles, but it makes a difference if that's my foundation down here, so that's my pelvic ring, then I have my lumbar spine, and from my lumbar spine I have my thoracic spine. Now it makes a difference if I start turning my thoracic spine from down here, one vertebra after another, coming higher as I go, or starting with turning my thoracic spine up here and coming one vertebra at a time, rotating deeper, deeper, deeper until I reach my lumbar spine. So once I rotate from down up, and once, the second time, I rotate from up down. And the up down component, that's the part that we do right now. So from here, I just simply start turning my chest area. And I turn. I don't even think about special muscles. I turn so long until I feel down here at the end of my ribcage, where my floating ribs are, until I feel pressure of my lowest ribs on the side and slightly back of my body, back here. Whenever I feel a little bit of pressure or strange feeling down here, that's when I stop with the rotation. Then I'm still in the safe zone, where nothing will happen to your lumbar spine. And those are the two options to rotate. Both also teach you to sort of get to know your body a little better, because it requires you to consciously be aware of different muscle groups and learn to reactivate them. But that's something that comes naturally. As soon as you ask it of your body a couple of times, your body will naturally relearn to give you this information, because the information is here. You only have to learn to access it again. Also, in order to do this exercise, I'll recommend start either from down here or up here. Do it to one side, do it to the other side. Then switch. Say I started down here, then I switch and I start from up here. And do it to one side and do it to the other side. And then just relax a little bit, move around a little bit, shake yourself out a little bit, something like that. One word of caution, obviously whenever we work with the spine, we don't want to force anything. So whenever something feels a little bit painful or something like that, don't go right into the pain. Whenever something feels painful, go towards the pain, let go, let yourself sink back to the middle, then do it on the other side. Might not be painful on the other side, and then come back. And by working step by step, always towards the pain and back, towards the pain and back, but never all the way through the pain. So you start to sort of scratch one layer after the other from that area where you feel, oh yeah, it sort of gets uncomfortable there. So by doing so, step by step, you can remobilize your whole spinal region in terms of rotation, and you can increase your awareness of your abdominal muscles, of your intercostal muscles, so the muscles between your ribs. You can also free your breathing. As mentioned before, last thing to say, make sure to use your muscles to the side and then relax back to the middle. Use your muscles to turn yourself and relax back to the middle. And you can also use your breathing to complement that, meaning you have an inhalation when you turn to the side and an exhalation coming back to the middle. Inhalation, turn to the side, exhalation, come back to the middle. And make sure not to hold it on the side like I just did because I was talking to you. So without talking, it's inhale, exhale, in, exhale. So you let yourself let go. You let go of the inhalation. You also let go of all the muscular tension, and you allow your body to sort of center itself again, which it does naturally because that's how we are built. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment box. I'll make sure to comment back or to answer them via email or via another video. You can also always email me. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want some more information on how to mobilize the body, how to get structurally, emotionally, mentally balanced and healthy again. And make sure to stay tuned some sort of way if you liked what you saw here, because there's a lot more to come. And check out the channel because there are a lot of things up there already. They're quite interesting, especially about walking, stretching, breathing, stuff like that. Everything that's to do with anatomy, biomechanics, and also emotional or psychological health that's linked to structural aspects. Other than that, I wish you a wonderful day, see you around, and enjoy.